Gender studies. I'm starting to understand. The question I keep asking myself is why? What do we get out of it? How can gender studies change society? It may be a rude question to ask. I hope Rosemarie Buikema can explain. Back to the big boss, Buikema. What's the purpose of this study for our society?
What the difference does it make?
Exactly.
You have studied gender studies, what can you do? What we have hoped to do is to change the idea of what culture is, how people think about culture, and the way in which people think about the contributions women and other minorities have made to that culture. There is a much cited story in gender studies, and that's the story of Sarah Baartman. This Khoi woman was a South African servant who was traded to Europe in order to be exhibited on freak shows. Everybody who was deviant from the so-called norm was exhibited, and people could pay and then they could look at them.
That's shocking. This was she.
Yeah, this is how they advertised her. So now exhibited in London, drawn from life. But to cut a long story short, she dies in Paris, and at the time there were medical doctors in the Musée de l'Homme who wanted to dissect her body. They wanted to know, do we have the missing link here between the orang-utang and the human species?
Unbelievable.
Her brains were preserved in formalin, and her body was sort of rebuilt in plaster shape. In one of our classes, one of our Eros and Pathos classes, there was an exchange student, Diana Ferris, and she was gripped by the story of Sarah Baartman, which was told as an example of how colonialism and sexism intersect. And she wrote a poem.
She was inspired.
Come to take you home.
This is Diana. And one of the recurrent sentences in that poem was, I want you to come home. Because at the time, Sarah Baartman's body was still in the Musée de l'Homme in Paris. The negotiations about the reburial of Sarah Baartman were still going on. A few months after she had put it on internet, it was spotted by a French senator. And they contacted her and they asked her, can we translate your poem into French? And
that's amazing.
That's amazing. And attach it as to the amendment of the law. And guess what? Within 2 months or so, the changement of the law was a fact. The body of Sarah Baartman was reburied on South Africa's National Women's Day in 2002. The story illustrates another aspect which is very central to the program in Utrecht, and that's that we try to make a connection between art and science. We value both scientific knowledge and the practice of art. This is an example of how art has changed the world, but it is art which has been informed by scientific knowledge.
Yes,
so
exactly.
she could not have written the poem without being taught in gender studies and in post-colonial studies. So she has found a form which has been informed by theory.
Your blankets are covered in
This story started in the 19th century and it has an impact on the identity of South African women today, but also has an impact on how we think about the telling and the retelling of the stories of women. I'd like to show you what it did to South African artists knowing this story, are trying to think of how to tell the story of Sarah Baartman in a different way. They all have their own means and techniques to both represent Sarah Bartman and to comment on the representational history. There are also a lot of artists who made raps. Do you want to see it?
Yes, definitely.
But maybe you think I can do it better.
Challenging.
I have come to take you home. I have come to take you home. I have come to take you home. I have come to take you home.
It's difficult when you share a same history. It's not evident that you have the same story, so you have to find a vocabulary to tell that story.
The poetry is dead, yet I'm alive. The water in the stream, chuckle sing song as it hums along.
Every repetition, there is a renewal of the story, and there are new meanings and new significances shaped up.
Interesting. I think I have enough stuff to make a song. Now it's my turn. Let me take you on a trip in my world.
I feel like a woman and a man. I just want to say what I want to say and do what I want to do. Even
My friend Nina and I will figure out how all this can fit into a song.
That's what I've been told.
Exactly.
Know what you're worth. That's what I've been told. Oh my God. Okay.
All right, one more time.
No. What's up with gender? What's up with race? Why always the same struggles that we face? What's up with color? What's up with age? It's like for years I'm reading the same page. What's up with gender? What's up with race? Why always the same struggles that we face? What's up with color? What's up with age? It's like for years I'm reading the same page. I don't know. One more time? Okay.
All right, one more time. You ready?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know why I always say yeah. Yeah.
It sounds gangster though.
Cheer up. I don't need this. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.